Greetings, SEOs. Today, I want to talk to you about two protocols that I think have a lot of promise with SEO: entity maps and the open knowledge format from Google. I think if there's a couple of forward-thinking things that you want to focus on to kind of stay on the leading edge, and a couple of ideas that have a ton of promise, it's these ones. I think you should learn about them, you should build them and test them, see if they have a positive impact. Now, before we get into those, I just want to reflect on a couple of topics that were hot button issues in the SEO community that turned out to not show any promise just yet. The first one is the llms.txt file. Ahrefs analyzed 137,000 websites, and 97% of the llms.txt files in that experiment never got read. Now, I don't have any issue with llms.txt files. I think they're pretty lightweight and easy to create. I think there's no real downside to it. If you want to try one out, go ahead. But right now, there's really no proven benefit, at least not that I can see. I did see at least one counter study from Cyrus Shepard that showed an llms.txt file was getting hit by AI search platforms. It was getting visited and read. But as of now, no real measurable benefit. I don't see any case studies that are making this something we should all rush out and do. The other one was Markdown files. And to take that idea further, the thing that was being promoted was create Markdown versions of all your web pages. I saw this in a lot of different places. This has not panned out either. In fact, Google's John Mueller and Martin Splitt were on a podcast, and they said Markdown duplicates of your pages give no SEO benefit. Crawlers do just fine with standard HTML. And in fact, this one can actually be wasteful because now you've kind of doubled the representation of your website and you've made more work for crawlers. What I want to talk to you about today is two ideas I think have way more potential. I love the direction that these ones are going in. The first one is entity maps. Now, this is a proposed protocol from the folks at Waikay, led by Grant Simmons. It's two files, and it charts the concepts on your site and how they relate. It goes beyond concepts too. It can be people and services, ideas, topic areas, that kind of thing. But it's going to map how they all relate to each other. And this is really good to help prevent hallucinations or inaccurate business descriptions by AI platforms. It can ensure that when your content is cited in an AI output, that you are referenced as the brand. A lot of brands were seeing that their content was being used in an output, but there was no mention of the brand anywhere. So it can help with that as well. And of course, it's very helpful in helping AI make relationships between certain things. So if one of your users has a prompt that kind of intersects with two concepts on your website, it's going to help AI make that relationship and increase the likelihood that you're going to be part of that output. So that's what entity maps are all about. Now, the open knowledge format is an open standard from Google. It just got announced on June 12th of this year. And this is basically where you package what your business knows. This is your knowledge base. Now, neither of these are direct reflections of your website. So it's not like a duplicate of your web pages. In other words, it's kind of a higher level mapping than that. Let me just jump out of the presentation here, and I'm going to go to entitymaps.com because they kind of describe it perfectly here, how to build this. List your entities. Start with the concepts, products, people, or places your site most authoritatively covers. And that's kind of what I mean. It's not, you're not just taking your web pages, duplicating them in a file format, and then calling that an entity map. You've got to think of your website from 30,000 feet and map those entities to create this. Open knowledge format is similar, but again, the focus here is on what you know. And we'll go into a little bit more about that in a sec. But jumping back to the presentation, let's go into a little bit more detail. So entity maps, what this site knows, how it connects. And this visualization is straight from entitymap.org. It's got a visualizer where after you create the code, you can put it in and you can see if you've mapped your business correctly. So we're going to chart relationships between entities. We know what those are now. It's built for AI accuracy, so it's going to help with disambiguation, brand attribution, and surfacing how your concepts relate. Basically, think about it like two files. It's a JSON file and it's an HTML file, and they serve pretty much the same function. I, by the way, did an entire walkthrough of how to create an entity map for your site, and I've got one on my own site, which I will visit now so you can see. But if we scroll all the way to the bottom, it's linked in my footer. This is the HTML file. You can see here all the entities that I worked out from my website and what it represents. And then you can kind of see it mapping them out here. Like Brian Gorman is a person. He's affiliated with this brand name. And then here's some evidence of that. And we've got our service entities coming in here and how all of that relates. Now, the open knowledge format is the knowledge itself. Open standard from Google. It's a shared format for representing what an organization knows. Try to keep track of the difference between an entity map and OKF. I've got an analogy, I think, on the next slide that could help you with that. But that difference is important because I think the two files, at least for now, and as I understand them, can and should coexist because they serve two different purposes. Now, we are dealing with Markdown files here because it's easy for AI to ingest and interpret. And these files are there so AI can access them and work through them as needed. So it doesn't read all of them. It's kind of like purpose-based, and it'll go to only the most relevant files. Let's look at an example here to help you understand this. You just want to think of a marketing agency that does local SEO. On the entity map, here's what it would say. I know about local SEO. Here's proof that I know about it, a little chunk from my website, and how it connects to me and other services and customers and things like that. The OKF version of it would be, here's what I actually know about local SEO. So that's very much evidence-based there, and that's going to be the knowledge itself. I'm going to hop out of this really quick again, just to show you the OKF I built for my site, since I showed you the entity map. So I'm going to come up here and just do llms.txt. Now, I don't want to seem like a hypocrite that I created an llms.txt. I didn't mean to talk down about it earlier or anything like that, but just not sure of the benefit. However, this is one of the ways that you can deliver your OKF and expose it to AI search systems. I suppose you might be able to link it in your footer or something like that as well, and I'm going to test that too. But you can see here, let me make this bigger. Here's my knowledge bundle, my OKF. I've got services, concepts, etc. And you can see they are markdown files from the .md. And this is where I'm encouraging AI search platforms to start. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that and open it up so we can see it. And you can see the classic markdown here with the pound signs, hash symbols, whatever you want to call them. And it's got actually what you would consider links or references to all these other knowledge files as well. So there's kind of like some internal linking in an OKF setup, which is super interesting. I am tethering these to changes on my website. So anytime I make a change to my website, like update the content or post new content, I'm actually checking in with that update and asking, is there anything relevant here that should end up as an update to my entity map and my OKF files? I think that's important to do because as your site grows or shrinks, you could remove things as well. I think these files should be updated to represent that potentially. Maybe not every update should end up changing these files, but you should at least check in with it. So I've got that running. And the other thing I've got running is keeping the two files in sync because I want to avoid drift. I don't ever want these to disagree and cause ambiguity, confusion, and thus hallucinations in AI outputs or understanding. That's another kind of mechanism I've got going there. And that's one of the big benefits of building these and doing these yourself. you're going to think of things like this. That's what I wanted to talk to you about today. Entity maps and OKF. I suggest you learn about them, build them yourself, experiment, and see if there's any positive impact. We need more people doing that to see if it has any legs, at least before it gets accepted as an official protocol, if it ever does. I like these ideas. I think these have much more meat to them. It's very logical. It just makes a ton of sense. And I think there's a high probability that these do get adopted on a more official level in the future. So it's a chance for you to get ahead. Give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to hear from you in the comments. I'll see you in the next video.